Hey all, here OS Reviews. In this video we're taking a quick look at the IMIKI D2. This is a smartwatch that has a couple of interesting tricks up its sleeve. The most prominent one is the outer shell is actually modular, and if you give it a bit of a push, you can actually remove the center from the frame. So if you're not a fan of the aesthetics of the darker band, you can swap it for a lighter shade, even a blue one, changing the way that the watch looks. And if you're unfamiliar, this is actually an ecosystem brand of Xiaomi. It's a similar relationship to Amazfit. Yet another example would be Halo. So it's their way to branch out into more product categories compared to making everything themselves, kind of like a subsidiary or sub-brand in a way, but slightly more detached, but getting funding and some R&D support from Xiaomi. Now the D2 does have an AMOLED display that also supports an always-on display mode, so even when the main watch here times out to reduce the brightness, saving on the power consumption, you can still see the time even without waking up the screen. Because of the modular design though, this one is rated at 3 ATMs, waterproof, or up to 30 meters. That is slightly different compared to some of the other rugged smartwatches like the aforementioned Amazfit T-Rex line, as well as the Kospet Tank series. Because all the parts here need to be swapped out, it is a little bit less than the 5 ATMs at those watches. But ultimately, whether the additional couple of meters matters or not comes down to whether you really are going diving further distances or not. In regular use, such as showering or even going for a light swim in the rain, things like that, this watch will still obviously handle without too many issues. Battery life is quite decent, up to 30 days. However, if you have the always-on display mode turned on, it drops closer to around a week or so, but still longer compared to most Android Wear or Apple Watches because the operating system is also more bare bones. But for basic notifications and fitness activity tracking, it should do a decent job. And what's good to see compared to more generic smartwatches is this thing has actual 24/7 activity tracking, including sleep. So it can track naps that you take during the day automatically. It's not programmed to only work at certain hours, improving on the tracking detection regardless of any time during the day. There's over 100 different sports you're able to track and label, although this model in particular does not come with built-in GPS. However, you can connect it with your phone and use connected GPS. There's over 100 different watch dials that you can customize using the companion app, and the watch is compatible with both iOS as well as Android smartphones. So in the box, aside from the D2 smartwatch itself, you get one strap included, and by the way, the metal housing here is actually what connects to the 22mm straps, and you can remove these for other textures, customize it based on your preferences. There's also going to be just a quick charging cable using magnetic pogo contacts, as well as a quick user guide. So when the watch is actually detached from the frame section, it looks a lot more minimalistic, and it is featuring a completely round 1.43-inch AMOLED display with a 326 ppi, making it relatively sharp and clear. The D2 also sports a crown that you can use to rotate through other watch dials, plus in the main menu you can scroll up and down through lists, and it's a nice extra feature that is technically missing on many of the other rugged design smartwatches like the aforementioned Kospet Tank, as well as the T-Rex line are both lacking the scrolling dial function, probably to improve on the water resistance. But I do like this because if your hands are wet, you can still navigate around the watch without necessarily touching the screen every time. There's also a bottom key here that you can map to other shortcuts. By default, it will go into your list of activities that you can start tracking, but it is completely remappable to other shortcuts based on your preferences. There's also a microphone and speaker built on in for answering calls if you're connected to your phone via Bluetooth. There's just the charging contacts and heart rate monitor sensors. It's definitely not the thinnest smartwatch in the world, but it's also to accommodate, again, a slightly larger battery, along with a slightly more durable frame when you do pop it in. You can see some of the contacts there for the various keys, and it actually doesn't require any tools for you to pop in. Simply give it a firm push and it will lock itself into place. Now the screen will be slightly recessed, so it will protect it a little better against impact. This is going to be one that's probably best suited for those with slightly larger wrists, even though it can be worn for both men and women alike. Left or right hand will both function, comparable to those other watches that we've looked at previously, but not bad all things considered. At least it's not too heavy. Closer look at the UI from IMIKI. You can long hold for a couple of seconds to change the watch dial, switch back and forth between other options that you can push over from the app, and they all look reasonably attractive on the screen. That being said, compared to a Amazfit and also an Apple Watch, you don't necessarily get quite as many modules or widgets, I would say, on the faces that you can further customize. In other words, the watch dials as you see them is basically what you get, but still looking decent enough and a wide selection of digital and analog options. We can swipe down to access some quick quick shortcuts, including the raise to wake function. The screen brightness can also be manually adjusted. 5 is the brightest here, a night do not disturb mode, and also jumping into more advanced settings. From here, we can turn on the aforementioned always on display mode, which you can also disable at night if you're sleeping, for instance, to consume less power, and you can choose between both an analog or a digital version of the always on display. Again, minimal pixels are being emitted, since on a black background like this, an OLED screen is still consuming not as much power compared to an LCD panel. You can also remove other cards from the carousel of apps that we'll see in a moment, including the drag down shortcuts. You can also add additional utility functions like a theater mode if these are other features that you commonly want to access. So pretty customizable, and even the transition effects between different carousel pages you can also customize. Furthermore, we can also access the second key down below there to trigger these other commands as aforementioned based on what you prefer. And we can also go into an ultra power saving mode that will turn off always on display mode, only showing time. Other information will be disabled. For added security, you can even add a password onto the watch before unlocking it. And there are a handful of sports that's able to track and recognize as you are performing the activity automatically. For instance, things like walking, running, cycling, elliptical, and rowing are going to be automatically detected. These features, again, rival what the Kospet tank as well as the Amazfit T-Rex offer as well, so pretty competitive. IMIKI also allows you to customize the list style, so if you tap on the crown key once, you can take a look at all the full applications on the watch, but you can also go into a different method, such as this one, a little bit more reminiscent of tiles, similar to on a Samsung or an Apple Watch. You can also choose one which is going to be a full set of bubbles, more reminiscent of the Apple Watch. You can also zoom in and out using the crown as well. It's not bad in terms of overall responsiveness. Here's a couple other styles just to serve as a quick reference. So not bad in terms of customization that you're able to use and take advantage of the, again, crown key here for scrolling. Otherwise, swiping up, we can check out any basic notifications, and the watch also allows you to send some pre-programmed quick replies back over text. We'll take a closer look at some of those prompts in the app later on. You can also swipe over to the left to access a list of some of your commonly used programs, as well as check out your weather, and also jump into the dialer pad. So if you are paired to your phone, you'll be able to make calls. Now the first page of the carousel shows your daily activity status, and you can scroll down to check out your distance, calories burned, hours during the day that you were active, and also the previous week at a glance. The only thing I'm not the biggest fan of, though, would be this weird tiger mascot in the middle of this carousel. I think is a little unnecessary and perhaps a bit cheesy there, so hopefully they can allow us to remove that maybe in a future software update. Otherwise, though, functionality seems to do all right. The next tile is going to show your heart rate, including highs and lows. Again, your resting heart rate will also be shown, tracking 24/7 during the day. The next one is SpO2 blood oxygen monitoring, and surprisingly, this is also automatic 24/7, just like on the heart rate monitors. So that's compared to past generation smartwatches, particularly on more budget models that sometimes required you to stay still to take a manual measurement. But now the watch is tracking that for you periodically. And similarly, stress monitoring is also here, telling you range during the day when you were relaxed versus high, medium, low stress. Next tab over is going to track sleep. And as we touched on earlier, with 24/7 monitoring, including nap detection, it's actually really not bad. The overall duration as well as periods of sleep are actually tracked in a fairly similar way to more expensive smartwatches. We'll also take a closer look at that data in the app later. Next tile over is going to be weather information, including highs, lows, the UV level, as well as the air quality, plus a couple of days ahead is also going to be shown. The watch can also act as a remote for controlling music that's being played back from the phone, although it does not come with any built-in storage to act as a dedicated MP3 player, so it is just a remote there, but still functional enough. As far as the full list of apps are concerned, we have a handful of common utility tools these days, like a calculator, again, basic torch that turns the entire screen white. You can use the watch as a remote shutter key for selfies, in addition to the common countdown timer, as well as stopwatch functions are also available here. You can also trigger the voice assistant on your phone, including Siri as well as Google Assistant, to ask queries if you are paired via Bluetooth, that is. And over here, we can also check out alarms, including the ability to add them on the watch itself. It will then buzz and vibrate. Another tile here for breathing exercises is also found on other smartwatches, but the circle here will expand, and you can inhale and exhale with the vibration to try and calm you down. And as far as the workout activities are concerned, again, it is offering us a fairly complete list of different types of sports that you'll be able to then more accurately label when reviewing it. We can set different goals in terms of duration as well as distance, and when we're satisfied, we can click to activate the session. Really, aside from the lack of built-in GPS, it seems to work quite well from a tracking perspective. Again, calories as well as distance, in addition to heart rate data, will be tracked second per second during the activity. Alright, so the app here is called IMIKI Life, and it is relatively quick to connect and sync information. You can also pull down to refresh any info, go back and forth between different days, and also check out durations when we were maybe a little bit more active. So all of the information here can be expanded into a larger chart compared to on the watch itself, which obviously will be a bit more cramped. Not the richest in terms of insights that we've seen, but at least it presents the information in a pretty easy to read manner. You can also check out quick analysis down below in terms of if your sleeping duration was normal, deep sleep versus light sleep, if this was high or low, how to potentially improve some of our sleeping habits, in addition to some naps that will be getting tracked down below there as well. So it's, again, really not bad when it comes to a overall tracking point of view. Is perhaps one of the bigger improvements since it is a true 24/7 tracking now, including automatic detection of naps throughout the day. And similarly, when it comes to heart rate data, when I compared it with the aforementioned Kospet and Amazfit watches, it honestly wasn't that far apart either. And similarly, the pedometer, if you're just shaking your hand, it's not going to count that as a step either. Within a 10% margin of error compared to those other wearables, I felt it gave a good enough approximation of when I was active overall. And then in similar fashion, the blood oxygen monitoring was actually quite fast as well. And using the app here, you're able to just track some of those longer term trends over different days and weeks a little bit more easily, see if those values are within a normal range or not. The next tab over allows you to initiate a running activity or walking outdoors with your phone's connected GPS, so you can begin the session from here. Under the device tab, we can also check out additional watch dials for more customization, and it's not bad here. You do have a nice selection of other designs, over 100 in fact, which are all completely free if you purchase the watch, and the watch has enough storage space to hold around 7 dials in its built-in memory simultaneously before you have to rewrite over some of the existing ones in order to accommodate the new ones that you want to sync. But it's not bad in terms of responsiveness, and here's an example of a more cartoonish style analog watch, and here's a quick montage of a few more attractive looking designs. This one here is decorated with some of the fish patterns, also looking quite unique, including some more minimalistic style watch dials as well. Here's some more mechanical, cyberpunk-inspired designs, which are definitely quite vibrant and show off the different colors. Here's a couple more cartoon-inspired themes as well, which are also quite cute and attractive, as well as the aforementioned festival and special occasion watch dials can also be found. So you get the idea, it all looks reasonably attractive on this round AMOLED display. And by the way, you can also set your own background image and create a custom watch face by uploading your own photo and then selecting where you want the time information to be shown. Other settings down below here include whether you want the 24/7 heart rate, blood oxygen, and stress monitoring to be on or off to consume less power. Sedentary reminder will alert you to get up and move if you've been sitting down for too long. And also you can, again, have the SMS quick reply functionality. For example, I'll call you back later, or sorry, I'm busy at the moment, or no problem, can be sent directly on the watch itself, which is neat. It's something that we don't usually see on these more basic smartwatches. You can also allow different types of notifications to pass through. Last but not least, the Me tab allows you to adjust your goals in terms of steps you want to reach, as well as units, and also check out a weekly report consolidating some of your averages. So that is more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the IMIKI D2 smartwatch. Overall, it's a well-performing enough basic smartwatch from, again, a Xiaomi ecosystem brand, and I guess highlights here would include an actual functioning rotatable crown, plus support for always-on display mode, and there are a couple of surprises, including the modular shell design, which I do think is rather unique, real 24/7 activity tracking, including sleep, which is not bad in terms of accuracy, automatic detection of some basic sports, and quick replies via text message are some features that we don't usually see. That being said, other areas where they can potentially improve on would be, again, some of the graphics could be a little bit cleaner, and also the app itself, although certainly functional, quick to sync, might also be enhanced with more richer insights, perhaps in subsequent updates. But overall, if you like the way that this one looks, particularly with the adjustable shell design, I do think it overall is not a bad choice, as long as you're okay with using connected GPS if you are trying to track your route. You can learn more details if interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That has been the pretty unique IMIKI D2